more and more people are leaving Canada than most people can imagine. I always say there is a marketing scheme probably going on in North America that shows to people coming to this country as immigrants that once you step foot, you've made it. Or people back home will think once you step foot into this country and you earn dollars, you've made it. But it doesn't quite work like that. In the last 12 months, over 30% of immigrants have left Canada because the country is not what most people assume it to be from the outside. I've even had conversations with people in the US, and even the way they deem Canada is actually false. Not because they don't know, because they're really not in the country. It's because of whatever's marketing, whatever marketing is actually going on outside of the country makes Canada seem like a really nice place. So let's get into the truth of why people are actually leaving Canada, and will I be leaving Canada? One of the most attractive things about Canada is obviously citizenship. There are countries that do not give citizenship, so people like to know they can get a citizenship, especially in a dollar-earning country. Okay, why? Because dollar stretches around the world more. That being said, one of the biggest attractive things about Canada is its supposed free healthcare. Now, one thing about the word free in economy is nothing is truly free. You're paying it with something, which in Canada, you're paying it with your taxes. And we're going to talk about that in a second because that's a whole different ball game why people are leaving Canada as well. But let's start with healthcare. Healthcare right now is one of the worst it has ever been. Like, you will wait months to even get an MRI. Unless you're about to die, they do not take you that seriously. Like, you have to be in an extremely emergency position to take it serious. In a position that where you just go to the emergency room. No, you can go to the emergency room and they'll make you wait 4, 5, sometimes 6 hours because outside you might be fine, but something's going on inside. So if they don't see someone crazy outside, they don't really come at you. And also there's a shortage. There's a shortage of doctors and nurses in Canada. There's a whole conversation about that because they're not paid as they are supposed to be paid, okay? So healthcare, although free, is coming at a cost, which is long wait times. And long wait times that we know with health is very dangerous if you have something really going on, okay? So that is something to keep in mind when it comes to people leaving Canada, because a lot of them come here for that and are not getting what they ask for, okay? And sometimes the doctors don't even take their clients seriously. They just, give themselves a prescription, always the same kind of antibiotics, and later find out with further testing that they're at a later stage of something that should have been diagnosed a long time ago. Or in medicine, they should have gotten a long time ago, but you had to research yourself to access it. Like, I'll give you an example, okay? So TikTok, I still think now, there is a medicine or medication which is called Ozempic. Now, when I learned about it, the first person I thought about was my mom because she has diabetes. She was at risk with her weight gain, with the diabetes at her lung because she has really bad asthma. So when I looked up Ozempic, how it helps with diabetes and weight loss at the same time, I was like, whoa, okay, perfect, let's do it. Let me tell her to tell her doctor. And guess what? The day she asked for it, she got it. And then I'm like, wait, so if I had never found this out through social media, the doctor would have never given it to you. And now her blood levels have really gone down, which is amazing. And she has lost a lot of weight. And, she walks with a walker. So that has helped her a lot with her pain in her knee and things as such. So it's just messed up.
If you've watched this video this far, y'all better subscribe, okay? Because I'll be making a lot of truthful videos, and you guys know that if you come on my other social media platforms, I talk about finance, lifestyle, business, and I will continue to speak the truth and also share my journeys along as I learn and as I do and as we level up together. So we have healthcare. Next thing is taxes. Okay, like I said, you pay taxes because the country's supposed to pay you back with proper healthcare. And we just talked about how really that does not exist at this moment and for a while in Canada, okay? So with taxes, it is bonkers as well. People will literally have almost nothing left. It feels, obviously they'll have something left, but it feels like they have nothing left after they pay their taxes. Like, the taxation in Canada is ridiculous. Now, let's say the healthcare was on top of, the food chain and doing its thing and has its strengths the way we deemed it to be, then sure, take those taxes, right? But then if the healthcare is not there, then what do we pay for, right?
At the end of the day, people can be taxed almost half of their income in Canada, which is really messed up. There's a lot of countries that have high taxation, and Canada is in one of the top, okay? Now, what happens is the after-tax income for a lot of people is really hard to survive on, okay? So back home, sometimes the problem is that a lot of people, if let's say someone is making $2,000 a month after taxes, full-time income on minimum wage, they assume it's great money because you're comparing $2,000 converted to your back home currency, and then it stretches really well in your country, but $2,000 can't even properly get proper housing for a lot of families. Like, mind you, single person can do okay, I'm not gonna say fine, but let's say someone has a family, $2,000 will not do anything for you. That will probably all of it go into your rent with the current situation that's going on, especially if you're in Ontario or BC, like you're gonna put that entire $2,000 that you make into rent. So a lot of immigrants come here as with their families, and they're seeing that their paycheck is not cutting it. Like, people literally live paycheck to paycheck, which means each paycheck goes into bills to the point they can't even think about enjoyment or even some leisurely activities like eating out sometimes, because they literally have to wait for their next paycheck to pay more bills, and hopefully there's some dollars left. But honestly, in Canada, even savings is hard because of the after-tax income, which then distributes into family expenses, then cannot be cut out. So they suffer, okay? It's not fair, and a lot of people are suffering in silence. And that brings me on to my third point. A lot of people were, I believe, marketed with the families that were here as immigrants and back home that, oh, yeah, we're doing well. I do blame the immigrants currently living here who put up a front for people back home that, oh, yeah, we're living good and stuff like that. I got a house, so I got a car. Okay, let's talk about that. In most countries, when you have a house or a car, the person truly owns it. Why? Because it's paid in full cash. Whereas in Canada, when you buy a house or a car, not everybody, for a huge chunk, house is definitely on mortgage, which is credit. Okay, so truly, if they miss a certain amount of payments, that house will be taken away. Whereas back home, there's nothing like that, because you just pay cash and boom, that's yours. If you lose your job, that the house is still yours. But Canada, if you lose your job and you don't qualify again, like you have to re-qualify for that credit you took for the home, which is a mortgage. If you don't, you can lose that home. Okay, same thing with your car. You don't have to re-qualify, but that car loan keeps going up. Like, you'll see people with nice cars, maybe people back home seeing it or outside of Canada see it before they come here, and they think, oh, when I come, I'm gonna have a house, I'm gonna have a car, and they realize, wait, everything is on loan. Everything's on credit. Let me tell you, if the credit system did not exist in Canada, most people wouldn't even have 80% of the things they have. And I say 80 because in Canada, people spend almost, for every dollar they make, they spend almost $1.80, which means they spend twice more than they make almost. And where do they get that money from? Where is that extra money from? Credit. It's not their money. And the problem with credit is it racks up because there's a cost of using that money, because credit is money purchased with a cost attached to it, which is the interest rate. And that could add up because the interest rates are like 20% for a lot of these credit vehicles, or if it's a lower interest, it's usually a large loan, so it still feels like a lot, which is like a house loan. Okay, so this whole facade of having it together but everything on loan can be very scary, because a lot of people before they come to this country don't know that this is how things work in Canada, and it could be a big issue. Banks also target newcomers in Canada to get these loans, because a lot of times newcomers don't understand how these loan structures work, because in their countries they don't have it. So they'll come in there as international students or as newcomers with family, and obviously you're very optimistic. Most new immigrants, when they come to Canada, they're very optimistic, as one should be. But over time they realize, because they don't know how to use this tool, it puts them into a hole, because here, if you get into a lot of debt, you cannot get assets, okay? Because it's based on something called a credit score. So in Canada, we have something called a credit score, and that determines your livelihood, to be honest. There is no score by cash, there's only a score by credit. So that's another reason why people are leaving in dozens. Another thing is A lot of highly educated people, experts in different fields come to Canada. And guess what? Their education is not deemed at an equivalent level in Canada, which is really messed up in my opinion, because in my opinion, I believe that education in other countries are way more higher level, especially, university and stuff like that. Just because you've got and became a doctor in Canada doesn't mean you're a better doctor than someone in West Indies. Just because you're an engineer in Canada doesn't mean you're better than someone, let's say, in Nigeria or Bangladesh. So the education and the experience is not counted for. I'll give you an example. My dad had over 16 years of experience as a top engineer, civil engineer in Qatar, in Middle East, in the Gulf. So where a lot of different structures are created at all times, and he was the person supervising all those constructions. So, and obviously doing the engineering behind the structural aspect. None of that counted when he came here. He had to go back to school, do a whole year of schooling, get his professional engineering license again. Then he was deemed successful enough or deemed qualified enough to get started. But here's the thing, a lot of immigrants can't go back to school when they come here because they have kids to take care of. And not only that, they have expenses to take care of, which is as simple as a roof over their head and food on the table. So a lot of times they go into jobs like taxi or fast food, not saying they're bad, they're just things that's going to help most immigrants survive. They do it. Then what happens? A lot of your time is gone. And a lot of times, a little bit older people come here with a lot of experience. They don't feel like going back to school because they haven't gone to school for maybe 20, 30 years. So it's a hard transition, plus maybe language barrier because, English versus another language, or just, again, the no education and studying aspect for 30, 20 years can make someone not want to study. You know what I mean? I've been out of school for a while and I don't want to study. You know what I mean? So that's how it goes. So then what happens? Their living standard decreases, okay? Then they don't live the life they live back home. Over 80% of people who come from another country who had a quite good living standard in their countries come here and start fresh. And the fresh doesn't mean good, okay? Doesn't mean at the level or close to where their living style was before, okay? Here, a lot of people back home might have a cleaner, a driver, a watchman, many helping hands at home. Whereas here, the only helping hands you have is the one that God gave you. Is your 2 hands and any other hands that are in your family. So that makes a huge dent in a lot of people's life over time. And a lot of people do not like that because it's really hard when you're trying to juggle work, school, kids, especially for some people, right? Now, let's say you did all that, you went to the education and all that, guess what? You might still not get a job. I'll just go back to personal experience with my dad. It took him forever to get an engineering job. And if he wanted an engineering job, he had to leave Ontario and go all the way to the north, which is colder, and a lot of people don't like it. So people have to they already come with their family. Now they have to leave their family sometimes, or even have to move their family again, which is more expense to be able to get the job they want. And sometimes in conditions they don't want. There's a lot of people who don't want to be negative 40 degrees Celsius temperatures. And that's fair. Like me, that could be a huge hindrance. So not only do you have to go back to school, which you're now taking a loan out because here even education's on loan, which is, government system programs. And then you have to go back and now you have to move or keep looking for months for a good job. And these are like STEM fields. Imagine STEM fields can't get jobs. What other fields are going to get jobs like that? Okay. Now trades are pretty good in Canada. We'll make a whole different video on that. But other than that, people who really want to get jobs in their field, it's tough. Again, because of these barriers. So they're like, you know what, let's go back home. I got my PR, I got my citizenship. Let's go back, because if you do get your Canadian education, again, a lot of other countries, if you go back to, they will give you a higher paying job based on the living standard there. Last most important thing that is making people leave outside of Canada is the lack of communityship. So a lot of other countries have a feel of community, okay, compared to Canada. Canada is very individualistic. Regular Canadians, when their kids turn the age of 18, they want them outside the home and things like that. And when that happens, a lot of them are struggling to even get by because they're supposed to figure it out on their own. Whereas other cultures, you don't even leave the home if you're an 18-year-old until you figure things out, you get your bread up. A lot of times you don't even leave until you get married, okay?
So there's that. So there's a lack of communityship, not only in that, but a lot of immigrants find that friendships here do not really last. They're very transactional. There's no communityship, okay? Like people are more within their time, which is fine. And a lot of times they can't even find the time because they're working 2-3 jobs sometimes. So there's no work-life balance. So that makes a huge issue, because maybe there would be a communityship in Canada if people could leave, get out of their work. Like people will buy a home, right? I said this to a lot of people. People will buy a home. They will work an extra job. So maybe they already have one job. They'll have a second job. So they will have 2 jobs and not even live in the home they purchased with mortgage, So it's kind of messed up when you think about it. It's like you live more at your job in Canada than you live at your own home and building relationships. And a lot of studies show that building relationships keeping people more sane and happy than even money. Okay? That's how you'll see a lot of times in other countries, even if people have, economically, they might be not making the greatest income, but because of the relationships they have, they feel like they have a richer life. Because at the end, their wealth is not just money, it's beyond that. It's health, it's relationship health, there's a mental health. So there's those aspects, and mental health is extremely hindered in Canada due to that. Okay, so imagine someone comes here, let's say they're international student. If it's an international student, their parents paid a whole lot of money, because domestic fees versus international fees for school is ridiculously different. I swear universities would not even last here if the international students even come here. So you have that, and then they get a PR, they hopefully get a job, and they take things out in a loan, house, car, so on. But they're literally living at their job, or someone comes here with a PR and they take a loan out for their schooling, and then they try to take a loan out for a car, loan out for a house. It's just a horrible hamster wheel that people are here going a lot of times nowhere. Like if you look up the top 10 richest people in Canada, they're all family generational wealth. So they're not even individually built wealth. So that kind of also goes to show you the economy of Canada doesn't allow that kind of wealth, like for instance, like in the US per se, okay? So these are things to just keep in mind, and what I have been seeing and what I've been researching, and just through conversations with friends and family in Canada, why a lot of people are trying to leave, or they're trying to create a way that at least they will retire back home, because the retirement here, a lot of people don't even retire. Like people are so old, like 65, 67, and they're still working here. You know what I mean? So there's huge cultural differences sometimes in the community versus individualistic aspect. There's value differences in sometimes what is taught in schools. There is a huge problem with jobs. There is a huge problem with not having enough money after taxes. And then all these taxes are going into what we think is health care and other things, but that is not even being provided for. So everything that was assumed before coming to Canada is becoming broken, and people are seeing reality. And thank God to social media, a lot of people outside of Canada are seeing the truth of the country. There is a glamorization of immigrating to Canada and even other countries, but I believe a lot of people are learning that it's not like that. I understand when refugees come here, they need a protected place. It's great. But a lot of people who are doing well back home should stay back home and not come here. If you come here, there is a strategic way, I believe, to do it and things as such. So will I be leaving Canada? And I'm an immigrant. I came at a really young age. Well, you're going to have to watch the next video to find out on what I am going to be doing, if I'm going to be living in Canada forever or not, and what I think some other people could be doing in terms of strategy to be able to live a little bit more fulfilled way in Canada or beyond. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe and keep your notifications on for all the videos I make. Now I'll be making more videos every single week for you guys. I've been a little bit plateaued because I got super busy. But other than that, please subscribe, make sure you comment. What do you guys think in terms of, why people are leaving Canada? Why you want to leave Canada? Are you going to be leaving Canada? Or are you going to be staying? Why are you staying? Let me know, because I want to know. And make sure to share with somebody who have been talking to about similar things, and maybe what I said also connects to what they said, or what I said connects to what you said, and share so people can know
and not fall into the facade of living in Canada. So until next time, keep on learning more and so you can earn more.